Good evening, everyone, chaps and chapesses, whoever you are. It's Friday. It's rolled around once again, and here we are, us happy band of cohorts joining up for a beer and a chat about whatever crops up. Usually music and guitar related, but it could go anywhere and often does. Cheers, everyone. Somebody usually asks, so I'll just mention tonight once again, the following presentation is brought to you courtesy of Heineken. And I'm really developing a bit of a penchant for the Heineken. I did sort of go a bit Holston Pills for a while, but I'm really kind of getting dialed into the Heineken these days. And dear me, that first one always tastes the best, doesn't it? Anyway, as usual, Time Profit. No, I'm not sponsored by Heineken. Should be, shouldn't I? An endorsement deal. Yes. There's. I've got a story to tell you about that anyway. About an endorsement deal by an alcohol company. That we'll get to in a moment. Let's have a look who is in the chat tonight. Scrolling all the way up, I see Johnny H was first in. Excuse me. Then we have Rent to Kill, Peter Nicholson, Balder, Johnny Random, Mark Kerno, PFY Guitars, Wilson Jones, and Anton. There's Sometimes Dim Never Thin, and Terry Day. And then Paul Trainer, and who else have we got? Excuse me, the chat just moved then. We've got Mike Hurley, and Ian Clark, and Robert Galbraith, Steve Hale, Michael Palmer, Cylon Hybrid, Sean House, Craig Stamen, how are you, mate? And then Gear View Mirror, David James, Russell Gibson, John Ross, Marvellous Bloke, Phil. Phil is in, so is Dr. Gomez one, and Vincent Brennan. Dave Feenish is there, so is James Hunt and Peter Collins. Then scrolling down, I see we've got Ben Allmark, Deco Dude, and John Channing. Then we've got Reeled In 58 and Nathan and my old mucker Edwin Toonan. We got Timbo Rough Cuts, Gordo Canuck, Cal B and the Rocco Cat is in, so is Nancy Davis and Amadeus. And then we got Chip Young, and scrolling down further, who's new? We got David Evans, Savvy64, Chris Ottewell, and then who else is new? Who's turned up? 60s Man, the Essex Cat, and who else have we got? Jack Collins is there. Wrexham Matic, greetings from Phoenix. Well, greetings from a rather dismal, grey, overcast and drizzly North Yorkshire. Then we've got Moto Takahi. I hope I haven't butchered that pronunciation too much. Probably managed it a little bit. Then there's Brad Matthews, Theme Tunes. Peter Shields is there. And who else is in? We got Stuart Young. Watches and Guitars is there. So Steve Cassidy Guitar. Time Profit. Mentioned you earlier, mate, didn't I? Dan Bernstein. Long time no see, mate. How you doing? Pablo Hank is there. Ian Rouse. Cowas Music. Graham James is there. So is OK Live and Mike Goddard. And did I see Colin Falcon there? Did I not mention you, mate? We got Maidenman 74 and Terry S. Edwin Toonan. Thank you, mate. Hi there, my Dutch half-cousin Heineken on me today. You, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you so much. Gary Shaw is there. Nice to see you, Gary. On road again, then Craig Watson, then Cushman and Jason Carter. Ben Allmark, have I already said you? I can't remember. Rick Cookson and Ike Busser, A lot of new names in tonight. Welcome if you're new to the stream, or maybe you've been watching for a while and just joining in the chat. And welcome as well if you're watching on catch up later on. Then I see we've got Jay Ao Young, and Steve Muskie, and who else have we got? We got Greg McKinnon and Alan Peters, Ian Checkley, Cushman NYC. Hello, John, he says. Well, hello, Cushman. How are you, mate? And then I think we're getting to the bottom of the chat. I think that's pretty much everyone. Yeah, as usual, I have I'm back in focus. I have very little, if no idea, what I'm going to talk about for the next nearly an hour. Although there is one or two things I do want to, well, one thing in particular I need to pick your brains about regarding how I make videos. I just need a little bit of advice, so I'm hoping there's some wise words of sage wisdom out there that can, make some recommendations for me. We'll get to that in a moment, but usually, it is customary around about this time of the evening. I'll tell you what's coming up on the channel this week. And look at me, I'm all prepared. I've got it written down. On Sunday, if you're watching yesterday, you'll have seen me unboxing this lovely thing, this Corsair Telecaster copy, which is an absolute gorgeous guitar, it has to be said. You're going to see the full shakedown of that guitar, the usual thing, in a mix solo and all the usual tab and stuff like that up on Patreon. You know the recipe by now, how I tend to do these things. So that's Sunday's video. Then on Monday, a solo by a guitarist that many of you will scratch your heads and think, who on earth is he? But it's a solo I've waited 30 years to play. I learned it 30 years ago in the early 90s. And basically, it's a solo by a chap called Davy Johnston. Is it Johnston or Johnson? I'm not sure. But Davy Johnson, let's call him. And he plays guitar for Elton John. That's the big clue. Anyway, long story short, back in the early 90s, I was in a kind of working band, and we were going to do this particular song. And then we kind of had the idea, so I learnt the song, including the guitar solo. Then the idea kind of evolved, and it was like, well, why don't we do an Elton John medley? And, when you kind of stitch a few songs together, there's some cuts and some edits. And the guitar solo that I learned 30 years ago for this particular Elton John song was one of the things that never made it into the final medley. So that's the solo for Monday. I won't try and drop any cryptic clues. I'll just let the cat out the bag right away. It's the solo from I'm Still Standing, which I think it's one of my favourite Elton songs, to be honest with you. I am partial to a bit of Mr. Dwight Reginald, as he was called on his birth certificate. Did he ever actually change it from Reg Dwight to Elton John? I'm not sure. Anyway, but I'm Still Standing is the Monday solo analysis. Then Tuesday, continuing the theme that we've been going through for the past few weeks, where we're talking about classic 70s rock albums. Well, if there was one particular type of album that was big in the 70s, especially in the rock genre, it was the live album, quite often the double live album. And that's what we're going to be talking about on Tuesday, my 5 favourite. And all of these lists, people sometimes give me a bit of a kicking in the comments, like, you should have included this one. Why didn't you talk about that one? And that one doesn't belong on the list. All of these lists are just my personal tastes, and I try and remember to make that clear in these videos. But yeah, we're talking about my 5 favourite live 70s rock albums. That is Tuesday's video. Then a bit of a long one. A bit of a kind of mammoth production on Wednesday. It's one that I've been wanting to do for a while, and it features a good friend of this channel and a good mate of mine as well. You've seen him on here before, the multi-talented musical polymath that is Mr. Steve Hoggart. He's showing up on Wednesday, and I don't know if you remember, but back end of last year sometime, I did a bit of an overdrive shootout. I've got a couple more videos in that kind of vein coming up, where I shot out the gain channel on the Marshall DSL-1 versus the New X Horseman pedal versus the where is it? The Behringer Tube Screamer clone. And I wrote a little piece of music that I played and what have you, and just to show that the different sounds of those different drives. And well, anyway, I sent the project over to Mr. Hoggart and said, would you care to do a mix of this? Because, you know, and video yourself mixing it, because selfishly I just wanted to learn how a proper professional, you know, kind of producer and studio engineer and somebody that knows what they're doing basically does like a mix of a track. So that's Wednesday's video. It's going to be Hoggart, Mr. Hoggart mixing the track, and me. So you're going to see my ham-fisted amateur attempts at mixing and Steve Hoggart's rather more professional take on matters. And yeah. And well, you know, you'll hear the results as well. So that is Wednesday's video. Then on Thursday, we're back on this guitar again. It's, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, Mr. Toonen, Edwin in the Netherlands, has done a little bit of modding on this guitar already. Well, it's getting even more modded on Thursday. A bunch of things that I'm just kind of tweaking it a little bit more to my liking and sorting out a potential. Well, it was a problem that the guitar had, you know, intonation wise. So we're going to, as I say, be modding and kind of fiddling and fettling that guitar on Thursday, and that takes us to Friday. And you know what we do on Friday, don't you? Oh, David Evans, mate, I'm so sorry to hear that. All I can say is that, you know, I hope this hour on a Friday provides you with some light relief and a little bit of, you know, a little bit of escapism. That's if I can't offer anything else, hopefully I can offer that, mate. And you know, and you're amongst friends here, mate. So you know, just whatever consolation that is, you know, just take it, mate. So what else we've been talking about in the chat? Elton Hercules John. Seriously, has he done that by deed, Paul? Yes, it doesn't surprise me, does he? Right. Yeah, Time Prophet, I agree with you. I'm Still Standing is his best song. Yeah, Steve, I don't know if it's two parts, but I'll try to play both. Yeah, it sounds. Well, I certainly pulled off a version of it with a single guitar. What I think probably happened was that it sounds more like a composed solo rather than an improvised solo, and possibly it was double tracked, because that's kind of a thing, isn't it? As we found out on Wednesday. Let's have a look. Johnny Random is saying, let's raise a glass to Angus. 68 today. Happy birthday, Angus. Enjoy your cup of tea. Well, happy birthday indeed, Angus. You've never grown out of that uniform, have you, mate? Anyway, chaps, couple of things I want to mention. The live meets, the get-together, the kind of the party conference, we called it last time, didn't we? Taking place in Redcar, hopefully sometime towards kind of autumn. So I'm thinking September, October kind of time. If we're going to make this happen, and I really hope we can, I've got, like, you know, a list of names who are, you know, who are committed to it now, and all I need to know is dates when everyone is available. Basically, if you, I noticed there was a few new names in the in the chat tonight. So basically, it's been put to me that it would be a good idea for us all to meet up. And well, last time we did it, we had a night out in Redcar here, and we had lots of beer and we went for a curry, and it was a rollicking good evening. It has to be said. I enjoyed myself. I'm sure everyone else did. Now, I live in a very, very, very small house, so I'm afraid I can't offer accommodation to people who would be, travelling possibly a long way. But this is a town that has no shortage of very, very affordable bed and breakfast accommodation. And as my little way of saying thank you to everyone who turns up, I'm going to put a chunk of money behind the bar to make sure everybody gets at least a couple of drinks out of me, out of the evening. So we're gonna kind of try and make this happen for September, October-ish. I'm being rather vague at the moment because I don't really know when everybody is or isn't going to be available. So if you're interested and you haven't already, said so, then don't say anything in the chat, because I'm blethering away here and it's so easy for me to miss stuff in the chat. Drop me an email, guitartuition@gmail.com. I will put that in the chat so you can see it. There it is. So that's my email address that I've just put in the chat. If you're interested in coming out for a night out in Redcar, the bright lights, the cosmopolitan centre of of this part of the world, then just ping me an email on that address there, and we will definitely make it happen. As I say, I'm shooting for kind of September, October time. And the other thing I wanted to pick your brains about, let's have a look in the chat, just see if I've missed anything. Time Prophet saying Redcar is really north. You have to watch you don't get a nosebleed. And Chris Otterwell's in the back of Beyond in Norfolk tonight. Crap signal and Wi-Fi, trying to keep up. Hold on in there, mate. Put your back into it. Craig Stamen is saying he'll drop me an email. He's up for it because the last one was a great. It was a great evening. It has to be said. It was. It was just basically beer and curry. What else do you want on a Friday night, for crying out loud? Anyway, the other thing I need to pick your brains about is all down to the fact that I've recently got myself a new phone. Why do I need to talk about that? Well, let me explain. My old phone was absolutely fine, fantastic. Used to do everything I wanted, and I think I've left it downstairs. I would have shown you otherwise. And it did everything I wanted, including like the front-facing camera, the selfie camera. Not that I'm one for taking selfies, would you, with a face like this? The selfie camera was what I used to film big chunks of my YouTube content on. It was 1080p and, great video quality. Stick it on this little tripod here, and that was what I used to film the guitar solos and stuff like that with. Right now, I got a new phone, and on paper, it's got exactly the same spec of camera, but the video quality is nowhere near as sharp or as good. So I've been doing a few videos where I'm using this webcam to film the guitar solo content, and it's kind of okay. It'll do at a push, but it's not as good as I want it to be. I'm kind of heading towards 30,000 subscribers now, and I want to. I want to have a little bit better video quality. Colm Cross, thank you, mate. You're a gentleman and a scholar. So what I'm looking for is a decent quality video camera. I know nothing about this. I am the archetypal tire kicker when it comes to buying any kind of video camera. What I want is something that's going to give me good quality, sort of 1080p video. I'm not bothered about 4K. That would be nice, but 1080p is what I'm shooting for. Good quality, sort of 1080p video, good quality, but where I don't have to go on a 6-month course to learn how to use the damn thing. And I've got a budget of, I could probably stretch to about 400 or 500 quid for the right one. Okay. Now, I'm just bewildered by the choice out there. So if anybody has any suggestions, once again, that email address that I put in the chat there, jrguitartuition@gmail.com. Give me a shout, just anything that you can do to kind of help me out here. And, I will make sure there's a quid pro quo. If you point me in the right direction of the right camera, then we'll sort you out with something nice, a t-shirt or, something like this, or, maybe some free lessons or what, we'll come to some sort of agreement, and because you'll be helping me out. So, right, 19 minutes in. Where are we? Yeah, 21 minutes in. I beg your pardon. To the live stream, and I've mentioned everything I needed to talk about. That's it's like, I suppose I should be kind of thinking, well, what the hell am I going to talk about for the next 40 minutes? But it's a relief that I've actually got all the kind of that stuff out of the way, and now I can just get on with kind of having a chat with me pals. Steve Cassidy, what you're saying there, mate? I'd highly recommend trying out the ProTake app for Android. Will give you manual controls over your phone camera. 12 quid for a year. See if you like it. Well, that's worth a try, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Robin Fawcett, I saw that as well. The Greenie LPs. I saw that video with Kirk Hammett. I tell you what, mate, I'm not really into relict guitars, but you know how Epiphone have done how many Slash models and how many Joe Bonamassa models. I just wish they would do a Gary Moore model. I really do. And if it was a little bit, kind of a little bit sort of a bit of a homage to the Greenie Moore guitar, I would be all over that. And I don't care that it's relict. And I just think there's if you think back to the late 80s, Les Pauls were not the most cool of guitars. I suppose Slash, with Appetite for Destruction, raised their profile a bit. Well, quite a lot, actually, But another guy who was instrumental in raising the profile of the Les Paul and turning the attention of the guitar playing, of the rock guitar playing world, away from the pointy headstock Floyd Rose equipped Super Strat style guitar, was definitely Gary. Gary kind of really did, when Still Got the Blues was such a huge album that, it sort of did, contribute, let's say, towards, the Les Paul kind of turning its fortunes around, because it was, as I say, in the 80s when I was at college, I bought a Les Paul for absolutely peanuts. It was knackered. It was a bit of a wreck, but it was still a genuine pucker Gibson Les Paul. And, because they weren't fashionable at the time. They were, everybody wanted something with a pointy headstock of Floyd Rose, HSS pickups, and Charvel, Jackson, Ibanez, Washburn, any of those brand names. And then Slash and Gary basically kind of came along in the late 80s, early 90s, and suddenly Les Pauls were cool again. So... Joe Perry too, says Steve Cassidy guitar. Yes, indeed, mate. I'll give you that one. And who was it there? Ravensmead is saying, what bands did you play in? None that you'll have ever heard of, mate. I was just kind of treading the boards and doing the rounds on what we call the club band circuit up here, playing kind of working men's clubs, social clubs, that kind of thing. I was in a bunch of bands. One was called Skullduggery. One was called The Verdict. Another one was called Big Ed. Georgia Gentry was another one. That was a country band. And gosh, I'm trying to think of band names from 30 years ago. The Motive, that was another one. And probably a bunch. Well, I know a bunch of others that whose names escape me, but you know, and it was just all of the kind of typical function bands. You know, all as I say, they're called club bands in this part of the world because you're playing usually in kind of social clubs and working men's clubs. Did I ever play Phoenix Nights? I played lots of clubs that were very much like the Phoenix Club from Phoenix Nights. Yes, indeed. You know, where you know, it's the audience have turned up for the bingo and the meat raffle, and and you know, the band is just there as a sort of as a token thing. Oh gosh, going back to about 2017, 2018, I started a series of videos when the channel had like 200 subscribers or something. I started doing a series of videos, you know, Tales from Clubland. I might just kick that off again because there was some funny stories there. Yeah, playing to in the country band Georgia Gentry, playing to an audience that were all dressed up in like proper cowboy gear, you know, like characters from Western movies. Like there's a guy with an eye patch who was obviously John Wayne's character from True Grit. And, you know, people dressed up as Gary Cooper and Randolph Scott and, you know, all kinds of stuff. And acting out scenes in the break from, you know, famous Western movies. That was an experience. So Craig Stamen is saying, I think Les Pauls sound great, but I haven't found one I've picked up and thought, yes, I need this guitar. That was very much my thoughts until I got this guitar, a cheap one, you know, Les Paul Tribute. Probably in the bronze medal position, really, at the moment. I love this guitar. I use it loads. I really do. The only two guitars which kind of beat it to the punch are, and you know what's coming next, Blondie. Gosh, I love this guitar. So Blondie is in the gold medal position, and silver medal goes to this, you know. I really, really love this guitar. In fact, if I didn't have Blondie, the signature guitar, this would be my number one. A 2016 PRS S2 satin, S2 standard 24 satin. It's the neck, everything about it, the pickups, everything. This is an incredible guitar. It'll do everything from Telecaster tones, Strat tones, Les Paul type kind of tones. The thing that I like about this is that even with, you know, the controls set at 1, you're still getting a usable sound. It's that there isn't a bad sound you can get out of that guitar. I absolutely adore it. And as I said in the video I did about this back end of last year, called it the perfect PRS. I just love the way it looks. It reminds me in a big way of a Gordon Smith guitar. It's got that sort of stripped down blue collar, but just high quality kind of feel to it. It's like I've got a mate who plays a little bit of guitar. He's just started taking kind of taking his first steps with the guitar, but he's a real car nut. So I always kind of like to try and describe a guitar in car terms. that there is, I don't know, it's like a Toyota Land Cruiser or something. You know, it'll go anywhere, do anything, and you know, it's bulletproof. Love that guitar. What you saying there, John? Hi, John. First time I've chipped in. Have you tried the Donless pickup clones? I've just put their little 59 in bridge position. No, I haven't tried those. I shall give those a look, mate. I'm always on the lookout for stuff to kind of, because, you know, from a selfish point of view, you know, I know that when I do any kind of gear related video, it always kind of does well for me on YouTube. I always get lots of, you know, lots of views basically, and you know, clicks mean revenue basically, and you know, a pickup is a nice thing to review because it's relatively inexpensive, and you know, it's a good way of doing a gear related review. So I'm always up for that. Oh, Mr. Hoggett, you're in. Yes, hope everyone is cool. The Hog is gigging tonight. May even treat the Thunderplank to some new strings. Why not, mate? Yes. I don't know if you missed it earlier, Steve, but that video that you and I did together, that's coming up on Wednesday. So if you missed that announcement, then, you know, make sure you watch it. Well, you've seen it already because I've sent you a copy of it, but, you know, it goes public on Wednesday. So there you go. I see. Who else have we got? GRB Aquatics is saying, John, that is the only PRS I have seen without the bird inlays, which I'm not a fan of. When I find one, I might be tempted. Yeah, the bird inlays are, you know, I thought I was the only person that didn't like them. But since I sort of came out, as it were, and I really don't like those bird inlays on PRSs. It's been amazing how many people who've chipped in and said, "Yeah, funny you should mention that." You know, the PRS that have I got the book handy? I don't know if it's. Oh yeah, here it is. A well thumbed copy of the paper cover has long since gone of. Tony Bacon's The Ultimate Guitar Book. There is a picture of a PRS in here that is just, for me, so jaw-droppingly gorgeous. That one there we go. That PRS, is it a Custom 24? Custom 24 there, yeah, from the sort of late 80s. And that has those moon inlays on it. And that is a beautiful looking guitar. And when you compare that picture of a late 80s PRS to a PRS nowadays, I think that they just look a little bit like the kind of high-end core models, just look a little bit too, I've said this in the past, you know, Liberace, footballers' wives. To me, they're just a little bit too kind of ostentatious. Your mileage may vary. You may love the look of the opulence and, you know, the kind of, you know, kind of Premier League footballer kind of aesthetic, but I just don't. What you're saying there, Michael? Hi, John. On either of the new PRSs have the moon inlays. Yeah, it is something. It is a feature that they do kind of bring out every now and again. I guess, you know, PRS is a business. It's a company that is there primarily to, you know, to generate, well, nice guitars. But, you know, ultimately you can't do that if it's not profitable. And, you know, the bird inlays are, you know, as I said, I thought I was the only person that didn't like them. But I would say the majority of people probably do. There is a sizable, I think, minority of people in the same camp as me and the chaps in the chat, you know, that are of the same opinion as me. But I think the majority opinion is that people like them, so that's what PRS do. Cowis Music is saying, what about your little DSL, John? It's still poorly. I've not had the time nor the inclination to get it looked at yet, to be honest with you. And I am really, really, really enjoying the blue guitar amp. There it is. There, that little Thomas Blue pedal board amp. I think that does everything that the Marshall does and more. It's the other thing that I think was not the weakness in the Marshall, but the weakness in the way I was using it is I'm not a proper studio engineer. I don't have necessarily the skills and the expertise to make up an amp properly and do a good job of it. And I was getting a fair representation of what the Marshall sounded like in the room. I was going to say to tape then, but you know what I mean, into the recordings from my kind of humble amateurish making. Let's get this camera lined up better. Making techniques, but the great thing about I'm pointing it down here. It's down here on the desktop. About the blue guitar amp is that I just come out of the recording output, and that I don't know if it's using an impulse response that's built into it or whatever, but that is, I can hear the difference between, like, I've got like my three main twin humbucker guitars, Blondie, Les Paul, PRS. Okay, I can hear much more difference between those three guitars through the blue guitar amp than I ever could through the Marshall. So, it's somewhat more refined. It's still, I tend to run it on the vintage channel most of the time, which is basically a plexi kind of sound, like the classic gain channel on the DSL-1. But it just seems like it's more. It matches what the tones I'm getting from the blue guitar match the kind of tones that I'm hearing on Thin Lizzy records and on, who else? Judas Priest and Rainbow and Deep Purple. It just kind of, for me, I'm getting a better Marshall tone, recorded with the blue guitar amp than I was out of the Marshall. And as I say, that's not a weakness of the Marshall. That is a weakness of my, kind of humble attempts at I'll stick the mic roughly there. That'll do. Do you know what I mean? It's and I know there's a lot more kind of finesse to it than that. That I just don't have the know-how to carry out, basically. Jason Carter, how about a Michael Jackson cover on your new telly, Earth song? It was Earth or Earth song, a Michael Jackson tune. Then I know Michael Jackson for what was that song he did about his pet rat, Ben, wasn't it? Yeah. And Rockin' Robin, that was Michael Jackson as well, wasn't it? And Beat It and Billie Jean, and I can comfortably count on the fingers of one hand the number of Michael Jackson tunes I'm familiar with. Jeff Rock, have you seen the new Laney pedal amp? It's like a stripped down blue for £189. I have indeed seen that. I saw Pete Thorne's video on it the other day, and it's got me thinking. It has. It's got the old noggin jogging, it has to be said, because it's either going to be one of those that's going to be the next purchase, or I am thinking about, for nostalgia's sake more than anything else, grabbing one of the Marshall Governor reissues. But they're completely out of stock, absolutely everywhere at the moment, and they're around about the same price. I think the Marshall Governor is 169, and and the Laney pedal amp is what, about 100 and, well, you said 179, didn't you? So yeah, yeah, one of those will be coming soon, probably both of them in the fullness of time. The problem is for kind of baldy-headed, beer-gutted, double-chinned plebs like me, you know, you know, a big YouTuber like, you know, Pete Thorne does a video on something, or Andertons do a video on something, or Phil McKnight does a video on something, and suddenly, oh, I should try one of those out, and you go, and they're out of stock everywhere, because, you know, all of the big lads have you know, kind of created such a demand that everybody's sold out. So we'll see what pans out, mate. I see we're into lots of puns on the word there. The best one, actually, was somebody in the comments of this of the video I did, when was it, yesterday, about this guitar, said the temptation to scratch out the bottom part of the E would be far too much to, let's see if we can do that. There we go. Would be far too tempting. And maybe it's just the me channeling my inner schoolboy, but I just think, yeah, it would be, wouldn't it? You know, I think you'd have to. A fart guitar, that would be great. Let's have a look. That was the song where Jarvis Cocker got up on stage and, you know, kind of showed both cheeks to Michael Jackson, wasn't it? Indeed. I didn't know that. I remember the event, and I remember it was, you know, it needed to be done, didn't it? You know, talk about, you know, pricking the pomposity bubble. Far too tempting. Let's have a look, see what else I've been. John, what about, says Decodo, let's put you up on screen, mate. What about the AI mixers? I know absolutely nothing about AI, mate. You know, the closest I've ever got to that, and I don't know if this was AI, but back when I was, you know, pretending that I was a working musician and releasing albums, I used to use the Lander mastering kind of thing, which does give good results. If you want your piece of music to sound, you know, kind of really punchy and loud and full on and kind of really professional, then just upload the WAV file to Lander. And isn't Glenn Fricker supposed to be doing some kind of review on that? It'd be interesting to get the kind of gen from a you know, someone that has much more knowledge about mixing and mastering than I do. I shall have to ask Hoggett about that at some point, what he thinks of it. John Mack, his granddaughter's cat has had kittens. Yes, well, we've had a pet-related event in the house this week. Many of you ask where Dougal is on a Friday night. Our new, well, relatively new. Well, no, it's been here since July. Our dog, Dougal, the Labrador Lurcher Cross. Yeah, he was in the vets this week for that little boy operation. You know the one. He's a couple of ounces lighter between his back legs. Put it that way, and so he's currently in his crate where he has to stay for until Monday, basically, because absolutely no exercise. Just let him out for toileting and feeding, and fortunately, he doesn't have to wear the cone of shame, you know, the lampshade kind of thing. The vets supplied us with a little onesie that he has to wear to you know, to stop him licking the bits that aren't there anymore, but licking the place where they used to be. You know, because obviously that would lead to, you know, kind of infections and what have you. So he's in his crate in his pajamas at the moment, and they've given us some pain meds, which do tend to make him a little bit more inclined to just sleep. So, but we're having kebab tonight. We're having chicken kebab from Marco's in Redcar, and he does like a bit of kebab, does Dougal. So yeah, a bit of grilled chicken isn't going to do him any harm. Colm Cross is saying, Thank you, John, for looking after the puppy. It's the best thing an owner can do. That is what the vets have always said. It it prevents kind of cancers and stuff later on in life. And seeing as how we lost our last dog to cancer, that is something that was kind of uppermost in my mind. We're hoping it'll calm him down a little bit, because he is just, remember that what was it, Hanna-Barbera? No, it wasn't Hanna-Barbera, was it? It was 70s cartoons, Looney Tunes, that kind of Bugs Bunny, all that kind of stuff. You know, the Tasmanian Devil. That's basically Dougal. He has two speeds. One is just basically doing the wall of death around the room, and the other is flat out asleep. So it's who said that? Dougal ball kebabs. Yes, indeed. It does make you wonder what happens to them when they cut them off. Is there? I do know my old fella, my dad, bless his soul, was a farmer, and when they used to get bullocks castrated, that was it was known as the vet's perk. That was the vet's breakfast, basically. Indeed. How hungry do you have to be, though? Seriously, do you know what I mean? Just go and buy a Mars bar or something. It's like, it's like oysters. Every time you look at oysters, I don't know about if you love oysters, fair enough. I'm not criticizing, but oysters, as I always say, it was a bloody hungry fella who ate the first one of those. Dear me. Anyway, excuse me, chaps. I see the conversation has kind of veered off into, as I say in all the videos, come and join us for the live stream every Friday, 5 p.m. UK time. We talk about music and guitars and whatever else crops up. Yeah, I think we're into the whatever else crops up sort of territory at the moment, aren't we? But there you go. That's what makes it so much fun and unpredictable. Maybe I should do kind of do chapters in the description after the fact, and kind of scroll down for the dog's bollocks. Yeah. Anyway, indeed, Peter. Indeed, couldn't have put it better, mate. Let's have a look, see what else we got. There's a good question. Back to guitar and music related stuff. Anyone ever use the Hardwire HT6 tuner pedal? Wow, so amazing. Allows tuning check on all 6 strings with a simple strum. Amazing, so many features. Now, there's a product review I should look into. Yes, indeed. I must admit, like I'm going to do a follow-up video on this little Peterson strobe tuner. If I just turn it on, you will see, hopefully, where's the button? There it is. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, but the battery indicator is still on full, and that's still the original battery from whenever I reviewed this. I would always tune like guitars just with a regular sort of headstock tune, a snark or something like that, and then 20 minutes said, oh, excuse me, I just need to retune again and get it back in tune, and then playing with it. And I don't know if this is just because this is more accurate or whatever it is, but I am noticing that tuning up with a more accurate tuner, because it is more accurate, obviously it's a strobe tuner, does seem to give the impression of better tuning stability on a guitar. Maybe it's that maybe what it is actually is that you get a guitar in tune with a non-strobe tune, with a less accurate tuner, and It sounds okay. It's in tune. It sounds good, and then maybe after a little while, you think actually this doesn't quite sound as. There's a note there that sounds a little bit sour. I'm getting so you retune. I'm getting hardly any of that these days with this Chobe Struner. Yeah, the beer is amongst us with this strobe tuner. You tune up, and then it just your guitar just seems to sound in tune for much longer. The only thing really these days which makes me think, okay, yeah, I need to tune up again is when like the heating kicks in or something like that, and the ambient temperature of the room changes, and obviously that affects things. But yeah, really impressed with that. Best 60 quid I've spent in a long time. Yeah, going to be doing a follow-up video on that. I'm going to do what I should have done in the initial video of this, is get the guitar in tune with a regular tuner and then check it against this. Deco Dude is saying, try the sweet setting. Yeah, I've noticed that, mate, in there, because there's a bunch of kind of, sweetened kind of settings, and, like for equal temperament and stuff like that. I've always just kind of been rather conservative and just stayed on the on just the regular kind of A440. James Severin is saying, "Hey John, how's that Gibson Les Paul of yours? You must have just come in, mate. I had this out earlier. Here we go. Here it is. It's absolutely magnificent, mate. It's not without its flaws. The main one is that slight lip between the fretboard edge and the neck edge. Many people, when I first kind of brought that up in one of the first review videos I did of it, said, "Oh, send it back. It's it doesn't affect the playability. It doesn't affect the structural integrity." And you know what it is. If you want a Gibson, which I did when I bought this, you kind of price those little things in. Do you know what I mean? You think, well, okay, yeah, I know that the fit and finish on it isn't going to be as good as a guitar that probably costs half as much or less, but I wanted a Gibson. The story behind this guitar was that I had a whopping big tax bill, and which I paid, obviously, as you do. And then I thought, well, because guitars are tax deductible for me, if I'm going to be paying a big, I might as well kind of, in the next financial year, I might as well just, have something else to put in the expenses column on the tax return. So hence I got this. And it had been 30 years since I'd had a Gibson, and I just thought, you know what, it's time. And there is the fact that in one of my first kind of videos that went big, expensive guitars, are they worth the money? I think hopefully, because hopefully I'm better at making videos now than I was then. But the point I tried to get across in that video was that you can buy a guitar for a very small amount of money, a cheap guitar basically, and you're not really going to hear any difference between that and something that costs many times more. But a guitar is often more than just a musical instrument. I'll be honest with you, that is, you can call it my midlife crisis if you want. It's buying anything, a Rolex watch, if you're into such things, or a flash car or whatever, a new set of golf bats. It's often you're just giving yourself a pat on the back for having had a good year, and that's basically what that guitar was for me. And the byproduct of it is that it's a single cut Les Paul style guitar that I've actually formed an emotional bond with, something that I've not done in the past 30 years. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it plays. Those Les Paul tributes, by the way, if you're put off by the fact that it's the cheap one and, it's not a proper Les Paul, that guitar's superpower is that it can annoy the most amount of people, because all of the Gibson haters hate it because it's a Gibson, and all of the Gibson purists hate it because it's not a proper Les Paul. It's the cheap one. It's the entry level one. You should have worked a bit harder and saved up and bought a standard. I've put that guitar up against a Les Paul standard. A Les Paul standard once owned by Marty Friedman, in fact, and you go and search me channel and you can find the video for that where I did that. And a Les Paul Classic and various really nice Epiphones as well. And it's the only one that I pick it up and it feels like coming home. Do you know what I mean? It's a fantastic guitar. So, if you're on the fence about a Les Paul Tribute, go and try one. They are incredibly good, providing you can get past the fact that maybe there might be one or two cosmetic blemishes there that that frankly shouldn't be there on a £1,000 guitar, but it's a Gibson. So as I said, you price that kind of thing in, don't you? Well, I do anyway. Anyway, we're into the final 5 minutes, chaps. What else shall we talk about? Can you use it to play Stairway to Heaven in guitar shops? That's a bit old hat now, isn't it? I don't think. I think probably kids going into guitar shops now aren't playing Stairway to Heaven. I think they're probably playing. Oh, I don't know. Well, it shows how out of touch with the youth I am. I can't really think of anything that would be a big guitar kind of thing. It's something actually. I don't teach many youngsters now. I think I've probably got kind of only one adolescent young lad on my books now as a student, and that's kind of happened since the pandemic, really. Since like 2020, the bulk of my business is now via the webcam on Zoom calls, and it's all kind of gentlemen of a certain vintage that I seem to be teaching now. And we're all talking about. I don't have to explain who David Gilmour is to the students anymore. I don't have to explain who Slash is anymore. But what I'm saying is that, in guitar shops now, when it comes to kids going in and trying out guitars, I doubt it's Stairway to Heaven anymore, or Smoke on the Water, or House of the Rising Sun, or any of those old chestnuts that we know and love from our days of being 14 years old and, going into, in my case, it was Bandland in Stockton, and saying, yeah, can I try that? Can I try that really expensive Gibson Les Paul there? I might be interested in buying it, says the 14-year-old kid. And, and you get it down with the rack and you just kind of sit there and, murder all of these old classic rock tunes. Paranoid, that was another one as well, wasn't it? Anyway, chaps, I'm starting to get hungry, and not to put too fine a point on it, what goes in has to come out, and I'm going to go and see how my pooch is doing in his kind of onesie vest, kind of anti-licking kind of romper suit, and I'm going to go and order a kebab for me and the missus and sit and enjoy some TV with her. So that is pretty much it for this evening, folks. Thank you once again, each and every one of you, for turning up and watching a fat, bald northern lad talk absolute cobblers for an hour. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you once again. I'll keep on doing it till you're sick of me. But for now, time, gentlemen, please.